Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today we are talking about the scene where Sirius Black is revealed in the Shrieking Shack. I'm Jessie.
And I'm Renee. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers from all the books in this episode. So we can identify, this is the scene from book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban. This is chapter, so it starts a little bit into chapter 17, but it's chapter 17, which is Cat, Rat, and Dog. And then it goes through chapter 18 and chapter 19. So chapter 18 is Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. And then chapter 19 is the Servant of Lord Voldemort. And the page numbers for those three chapters are 332 to 377. In the audiobook, depending on which version you're listening to, it's going to be around 7 minutes into chapter 17, but you can probably start from the beginning of the chapter. But we're mainly going to talk about the part where they're actually in the Shrieking Shack, not so much about like the preamble of how they get there. Do you want to give us a quick summary?
Yeah. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, accompanied by the pets Scabbers and Crookshanks, enter the secret passage under the Whomping Willow. The passage takes them to the Shrieking Shack, where they meet Sirius Black, learn a surprising secret about Professor Lupin, and uncover the truth of the Potters' deaths.
Okay, before we get into the scene, though, we're going to do our listener question of the week. The listener question for this week came to us from a listener, and I'm going to read this off. So, why was Albus Dumbledore in charge of where Harry Potter went to school and had his vault key to give to Hagrid? Where was Wizard CPS, which that is a reference to Child Protective Services? I figure we just give our thoughts. I don't believe there's anything in the books that actually like explains this. So I don't think there's an actual answer. So I think it's more just like what we think.
Well, I thought in the books it was implied that Dumbledore's the executor of the Potter's will, or he has like power of attorney or something where he's the person kind of following through with the plans that they had already set in place. Maybe I'm just making that assumption in my mind, and that's not actually in the text.
I mean, they definitely imply that the decision of where he should go fell on him, and we're just assuming that, like, yeah, he's like the trustee on the account or something where he has like purview. It does seem a little bit random, and with the fact that Harry has a godfather and you know, I don't like, and what did they have a will?
Well, like, I think because Harry's godfather is assumed to have killed Harry's father, he just gets skipped over in the chain of command.
Yeah, but he wasn't even questioned, you know, in the first place. So there's like all the issues with that, but I won't even go down that road. I'm agreeing with you that I think he's like the person in charge of their account, their will, whatever, of their like the moving of their assets. But I do think there's a lot of questionable things about how Dumbledore handles it. Even like Dumbledore hangs on to one of their assets, which is the invisibility cloak, until Harry's 12 years old. Like, was he allowed to just keep something like that from him, you know?
I mean, if Harry had that at the Dursleys' house, he would have run away a long time ago. But I think you've got to remember, Dumbledore isn't just the headmaster from these people's high school. Like, they have a very close relationship with him. They're in the Order of Phoenix with him. He's probably one of the wizards they trust the most, you know, even beyond their circle of friends. So they do have a close relationship with him because of that Order of the Phoenix involvement.
Yeah, but I would say, in my opinion, there is no wizard CPS, clearly, because Dumbledore's just left in charge of this. And another child I would bring up as an example is like Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle just is at an orphanage and then one day gets told that he's a wizard, and it's just like, here, you know, figure it out. And no one's really like checking on how he's doing, for another example. But I did want to address the part of the question that they said that he had his vault key to give to Hagrid. I don't think that he did, though. Or maybe I'm not like remembering, but I thought that that Hagrid had the key for the other vault with the Philosopher's Stone. I don't think he had Harry's key. I thought like Harry went with him, and then because Harry's there trying to access his account, he was able to access it.
Yeah, I don't remember the detail if Harry had a key. If he did, I don't think it's crazy that Dumbledore had that. I don't know why. That just makes sense in my mind. Another part of the question is Dumbledore chose what school Harry went to, but there's not really school choice. Like it's only one school for all wizards in England, right? He's basically going to Hogwarts. Like there's not an alternate.
I mean, you could go to a foreign school, or you could be like homeschooled. You're not required to go to Hogwarts.
Okay. But I mean, he's not going to be homeschooled because he doesn't live with wizards. Yeah. And yeah, I just feel like the default is Hogwarts. So it's not really like Dumbledore influenced that decision very much.
Yeah, I get, and it's like Harry in the situation that he was in didn't want to stay in Muggle school. Like he didn't want to just like ignore his wizardness. But I don't know. I feel like you're putting like Albus on a higher podium than I think he deserves. Like I think he does a lot of questionable things, and especially his handling of Harry, that I feel like he shouldn't have been given just like carte blanche, is that the word, to like just decide where everything about Harry's life, like solo, like without being questioned by anyone.
Also, when Harry's parents die, the Ministry is kind of in shambles because of this world war with Voldemort. Is that right? So maybe at that moment there wasn't really like the government wasn't that secure to step in and handle things like that. And so Dumbledore just kind of assumed the role, even though that's not ideally like how the situation would have been handled if their government was stable.
I don't think the Ministry was as unstable as the Second Wizarding War. I mean, they're obviously like people were being picked off and they haven't found Voldemort, but I don't think they were like in such they were able to react super quickly to Sirius being arrested. So I feel like they're still like
operating.
There.
Okay.
They clearly were more concerned about arresting Sirius and handling that than the Potter's house being exploded and a baby being there. Like Hagrid and Sirius were the first on the scene. Like where was the Ministry for that? Right?
Yeah, a little questionable.
My last thing that I do want to bring up about the like keys and the vaults and the bank, I think the bank security is also super questionable because Dumbledore, Hagrid like maybe did have his key or maybe they didn't. But the fact that they can just bring this kid, like Hagrid, some basically random adult, can bring this child and be like, yeah, I'm taking him to take to this vault with full of money, unsupervised, and like I'm gonna take this kid. Like, what's stopping Hagrid from stealing from Harry? And then also in a later book, Bill, who works for the bank, I forget which book it was. I think it was like 4 or something. Bill's like, oh yeah, I took some money out of your vault for you, Harry, so you could like get your school things. Like he just did that. And I'm like, how is that going through? That like some random employee's like, oh yeah, I can just like access and take money out of this vault of this kid. And then finally on the bank security, Sirius Black, while he's on the run, is able to send Crookshanks to like put in an order for the firebolt to take money out of his bank to pay for the firebolt. And that there's no like flag there or questioning when like a person on the loose is taking money from
his accounts
vault.
Should be frozen. Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, the Wizarding World, it's a small community. They really are built on trust.
Too much
hanging on by a thread.
Yeah. All right. So getting into the main scene. So here we go. We're just let's jump in chapter 17, Cat, Rat, and Dog. So just setting up the scene, just so you know, like where we are in the story. If you haven't read this in a while, we're now post Buckbeak's quote unquote execution, and the trio is out on the grounds, and a giant black dog bites Ron, and drags Ron and Scabbers, quote unquote, under the Whomping Willow. And the It's important to note the dog didn't break his leg. Ron like hooks his leg around a root trying to stop the dog, and the dog was pulling, and then Ron's leg breaks. So Ron is now injured under the Whomping Willow. And Crookshanks, the cat, touches a knot on the tree trunk, and that stops the Whomping Willow branches from moving. And Harry and Hermione are able to like follow along and go underneath the into this like passage under the Whomping Willow.
Yeah, so they enter the passage under the Whomping Willow. They're not sure where it's leading, but they can tell that it goes towards Hogsmeade. And ultimately, they come up in the Shrieking Shack, and pretty quickly they figure out that that's where they are.
Yeah. And the only thing I'll like say about this priest, like I don't want to go too much into like the setting the scene part, but I kind of hate how the movie did this part because like basically Crookshanks' whole role in this book kind of gets left out in the movies. Obviously Crookshanks is there, but Crookshanks has been working with Sirius Black throughout this whole book, and then is the one to touch the knot and get Harry and Hermione in. And the whole like touching the knot on the tree is their way of getting in, which explains, and like small animals seem to be able to do it, like humans almost can't do it, or it's very hard. And I feel like that makes so much more sense than the whole like movie scene where Harry and Hermione are like so swinging around and then they're like timing it to go under.
Aren't they like holding onto the branches and like flying around, and then the willow like throws them underneath or something?
It just seems like if this was possible, then students would be doing this. Like, have you ever met a child? Like, have you ever had a child? Like, they look at dangerous stuff like that and they're like, woo, like this tree is going to swing me around. Like,
yeah, I think they were just trying to make it a little more action packed in the movie, you know, instead of the tree freezing. My biggest question mark from reading this initial part is that Crookshanks is a boy cat. This whole time I thought Crookshanks was a girl cat, and they keep referring to it as he.
Yeah, he's a boy. He's a boy the whole time.
So that's what I was getting caught up on.
Yeah, a little bit different things. But basically, overall, justice for Crookshanks, the forgotten boy cat that doesn't get his due. But now we're in the Shrieking Shack.
Yeah, they get into the Shrieking Shack, and Crookshanks is cozying up with Sirius Black. Like you said, they've been kind of running around together this whole book, but the cat's like purring and climbing on him, you know, which is, and Harry and Hermione are just startled by everything that's going on because they're like, why is Sirius here? It wants to kill us.
Yes, this reveal is so good. They like them getting in there, and they do it. It's very similar in the movie and the book. You know, they go in, they find Ron in the bedroom, and then they're like, you know, where's the dog? Like Ron's just there, and it's not a dog, Harry. It's a trap. He's the dog. He's an animagus. And then, you know, like Sirius is like hanging out in the shadows waiting for his like grand reveal.
And he like slowly creaks the door closed and locks them in the room.
Yeah. And there's also this scene is going to be really heavily like dialogue. So it's like now that we're in the Shrieking Shack, there's not going to be too much. Like, we're going to be in the Shrieking Shack for a long time, for like 3 chapters, and we're just going to be talking mainly. But there is a little bit of like wand back and forth. So Sirius disarms Hermione and Harry using Ron's wand, and now has the 3 wands, and the students are disarmed at the beginning of this like scene. But the wands are gonna shift around, so we'll try to track that for you of who has wands at what point, because that kind of like matters. But Sirius also, like the book, it's funny because the book does a good job. It's like in reality, Sirius would probably be like immediately trying to explain himself, but they really draw out this reveal of like the whole story, because Sirius just starts out by saying like, oh, Harry, like, I'm so glad that you came and decided to save Ron instead of like running back to the castle. Like James would have done the same for me. We're just going to start out like on some random thing.
Yes, this was so frustrating to read because he doesn't give them any useful information. He's just really taken his time. I love they're like, oh, he's gonna kill us, and Sirius goes, there will be only one murder here tonight. Like, that's the creepiest thing to say if you're not a bad guy that's going to kill them.
Yes. Finally, like, and in the earlier scenes in this book, I feel like Harry wasn't questioning this enough. But finally, Harry brings this up. He's like, "You were willing to kill innocent bystanders before. Why wouldn't you now? Like, why are you so concerned about just killing me?" He thinks, and I don't know. Harry goes like full unhinged. He just like, there's this serial convicted murderer in my presence. I'm going to insult him, and then like he lunges at him and it like physically attacks him.
Yeah, because Harry doesn't have a wand, he just starts punching Sirius, and Hermione and Ron are getting in there too, like kicking him and trying to tackle him.
And again, Sirius, like Harry's, punching him, and Sirius gets Harry by the throat and is just trying to like push him off of him. But obviously, like when you don't know Sirius is a good guy, you're thinking like he's like, oh, he's gonna try to kill Harry. And again, Sirius, when he has this moment, he's like, I've waited too long. Like, that's what you're gonna say. Like, say I'm innocent or something.
The one that kills me is Harry goes, "You killed my parents," and Sirius replies, "I don't deny it." Why would you say that? I guess Sirius is saying, yes, I made them switch their secret keeper to Peter, and that's what killed them. But it's so annoying because he's not helping himself at all to win these kids over.
Yeah. My only like logical explanation for this, other than like it being a plot device, is that it's been like 13 years. He probably doesn't, or 12 years or whatever. He doesn't have his social skills. Like,
he's been in solitary confinement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the scene is nicely paced. I know, like, we're complaining that it's too drawn out, but it's a nice dramatic pace. I like the movie scene, but the movie scene moves very quickly, and we don't get this time. There's a few minutes here where it's just the kids and Sirius, and there's a lot of interaction before Lupin comes in. Whereas the movie, like, Lupin almost immediately enters behind them.
And Snape comes soon after. Yeah, the movie really cuts out all of the explanations for everything, which it's kind of funny because I don't really know what it's like to just like have the movies and not the books. But I'm sure the people in the movies are like, that just watched the movies and didn't read the book are like, how did he escape from prison? Like, how did he know that Pettigrew was Ron's rat? Like, there's a lot of like holes, I feel like, that are made by the movie just kind of skipping over all the explanation that we're getting here.
Yeah. And we're saying Sirius isn't a great communicator, but the kids also, like, they sound like kids. Like, they have a lot of attitude and they're not exactly like saying what they mean to say. Harry, I was laughing so hard. He goes, "I understand a lot better than you think." And Harry knows nothing. He's just saying, like, I know everything. It's just like what a teenager would say.
Yeah. They have this kind of scuffle. And in this scuffle, and, Sirius is being punched by Harry and kicked by Hermione. And he drops the 3 wands in his hand. And Harry's able to get his wand. And this is where, and Hermione gets Ron's and her wand back. So now the wands have now transferred back to the kids. Harry gets his wand and he tells Hermione and Ron to get out of the way. And he's like gonna kill Sirius, which I don't even know if he actually knows how to kill anyone at this point. But he's got him at wand point, whatever. And he says, and Black says, "Going to kill me, Harry?" And Harry says, "You killed my parents." And this is where he says that, "I don't deny it, but if you knew the whole story." And it's funny because this scene where Harry's in this position where he has someone where he could kill them and he wants to kill them, but he kind of like is struggling and ultimately decides not to, is kind of paralleled with like Malfoy's story, right? Draco's in the same position with Dumbledore later. And it's like Dumbledore makes a comment in that scene where he says, "If you were going to kill me, you would have killed me in the beginning, like immediately." And I feel like that also applies to Harry. Like, Harry was never actually going to do it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a couple minutes that Harry's just frozen, holding his wand out at Sirius. Again, I don't think he actually knows how to kill Sirius. I don't know if he was going to just do like Expelliarmus a million times until Sirius just dies from that. overexposure to Expelliarmus. But Harry is really struggling. It's less about like his magical know-how. I think, I don't know, I feel like he's a wizard. He has a wand. If he really had that intention, he could do it. But he is having a back and forth. This is the person that killed his parents and ruined his life. But he can't just kill somebody. That's a huge weight on him to have to do that. So he's kind of frozen, just trying to think of what to do.
Yeah. Sure, like having this like internal battle. And also Hermione and Ron are they're like, we're by you. They're ride or die Harry fans. If you're going to kill someone, we are going to stand here and just watch.
We are ready to hide the body.
Yes. The only thing I'll say, last thing about like this moment before Lupin comes barging in, is Crookshanks jumps onto Sirius's chest in a sort of this. I love. There's so many times in this series where we have a physical like moving of a body in front of another body, like protection. Like it's often mother and child or whatever. But they have this little moment with Crookshanks sitting on Sirius. And Sirius tries to push the cat away and, Crookshanks won't move. And I feel like this is also like a reference to, like animals knowing when people are good people or bad people, kind of.
Yeah, Crookshanks is trying to physically protect Sirius. He's laying on his heart in between Sirius and Harry's wand.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about like Crookshanks knowing that Sirius wasn't an actual dog, but sticking by him. But simultaneously, Crookshanks knew that Pettigrew was not an actual rat, but went against him, like being like this judge of character.
If I was Hermione, I'd be pissed. I'm like, you're my cat. You should be protecting me.
Yeah. The Hermione Crookshanks relationship is kind of interesting. I feel like Crookshanks is, I don't know, like kind of
not loyal to her.
He's just kind of off doing his own thing. It's not like pet owner relationship. I feel like it's like friends. Like she's not his master.
Yes, Ron has more of a relationship with Scabbers than Hermione does with Crookshanks.
I feel, yeah. It's like while Harry's standing here, Lupin appears and he disarms Harry. So now Harry and Hermione, who's holding Ron's wand. So now the wands are going back. I told you, the wands are like moving around. The wands are going now to Lupin. And Lupin, this cracks me up. Lupin starts out all business, no preamble. This is Lupin's first line. Where is he, Sirius? That's how Lupin starts out. No hello. And then like 2 seconds later, he goes, when I was a child, I received the bite. And I'm like, you went from like all business to like, let me tell you the whole story of my entire life. Like I have all the time in the world.
Yeah. I love when Lupin asks where is he and Sirius just dramatically points at Ron, or they think he's pointing at Ron. In the movie, that's so good. And like when you're reading it too, it's very creepy and the mystery. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say there's the movie difference. There's some added dialogue here. When Lupin comes in, he has the wands and he has Sirius at one point. And Lupin says, well, Sirius, looking rather ragged, aren't we? Finally, the flesh reflects the madness within. And then Sirius replies, well, you'd know all about the madness within, wouldn't you, Remus? That is just from the movie, not the books. But I do like that exchange. It's funny and it's a clever reference to obviously like what we're about to get with Lupin's secret.
Yeah.
Another important movie book difference is in the book, Lupin comes in when Sirius points to Ron. Lupin in that moment like stalls out and processes that Pettigrew was the secret keeper all along. He doesn't say it out loud, but he's like, oh, but you switched and okay. Oh, that's, like he kind of does one of those. Whereas in the movie, they have this scene like way before where he sees Pettigrew on the map, and we're supposed to believe that Lupin has just been like sitting with this knowledge, not doing anything about it for like, months or however long.
Yeah, so the reason Lupin comes down to the Shrieking Shack is because he saw Peter Pettigrew on the map like moments before, and he's like, oh, Peter Pettigrew is right here. But you're saying in the movie, he sees that like a month in advance?
Yeah, in the movie, they have a scene where Harry's wandering around at night and notices Pettigrew on the map. So Harry sees Pettigrew on the map and then tells Lupin, I saw a person that was already dead. It was Peter Pettigrew. And Lupin says, that's not possible. Like, the map doesn't lie, whatever. And then, we don't get anything about that until later Lupin just appears. And also, we don't get the explanation of, like, how Lupin even knew that they were there in the movie. So I feel like that's another part that's kind of like a vital thing, like that Lupin is finding out right here and right now, because this is why Lupin never tried to like help Sirius before, or never was never tracked Peter Pettigrew, because he didn't know that he existed on the map.
Yeah. So Lupin's walking into this situation wanting to defend the kids because he doesn't trust Sirius, but he also is just learning that Peter Pettigrew is alive and doesn't trust him either. And so he's just thinking the kids are in danger, and that's his sole purpose of like, I'm going to the Shrieking Shack to defend them from Sirius, Pettigrew, whatever it is. And I want an explanation of why is Peter Pettigrew showing up on the map? Like, is he really alive?
Yeah. Like, imagine your dead friend, like from years ago, is on this map. He says he thinks the map was like must have been malfunctioning, but Lupin realizes in the moment what had happened, the history, which we're about to get explained to us. And Lupin helps, but the kids don't know all of this background, right? So that what the kids see is Lupin just helps Sirius up and hugs him like a brother. Hermione turns on him immediately. Hermione,
both Hermione and Harry can't keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, Harry to Sirius is Hermione to Lupin. Hermione's ride or die for Harry. She is not ride or die for Lupin. She immediately is like, I'm spilling all of your secrets. You turn on me, I'm turning on you. She says, Harry, don't trust him. He's been helping Black get into the castle. He wants you dead too. He's a werewolf. And I love this line that Lupin has. Not at all up to your usual standard, Hermione. Only 1 out of 3, I'm afraid. I have not been helping Sirius get into the castle, and I certainly don't want Harry dead, but I won't deny it that I am a werewolf. And it's like, dun, 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 big reveal.
Yeah, it's so good. And Lupin asks Hermione how long she's known, and she replies, ages, which is so funny for like a 13-year-old. Like, her and Harry are both like, we know everything, even though they have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah.
Ages. This is so dramatic.
Yeah. It's so funny too, because this whole book is like reveal after reveal after reveal, because we do this whole scene too, and we don't even get the reveal that Hermione has a secret until later. But yeah, so Hermione explains that when Snape subbed for Lupin, he assigned that paper about werewolves, and she checked the moon chart and noticed that he was sick during the full moons, and then she also noticed that his boggart turned into the moon. And so she's just like put all the pieces together. Like, it was all the things. She checked all her boxes. And so Lupin says, you're the cleverest witch of your age that I've ever met, Hermione. And he's just like, round of applause, clap for Hermione. Like, Lupin appreciates Hermione the way all teachers should.
Yeah, she didn't miss a single piece of evidence.
She's like, I'm not smart. Like, I should have told everyone. And he says, but they already know. Like, all the professors actually know. And so, like, you weren't keeping a secret. That just the students are the ones that don't know about this.
Ron is disturbed about Lupin being a werewolf. Obviously, Ron has more of like the cultural background of wizards and werewolves being taboo or discriminated against. We saw the same thing we discussed when Harry and Ron find out that Hagrid is half giant, and Ron has the most visceral reaction to that because he has this like background and prejudice and bias. So we're getting that from Ron, that he's a werewolf. Harry and Hermione, of course, think this is scary probably, but they don't have the same intense reaction that Ron does. Ron's like, don't touch me.
And so Harry kind of brings it back to like Sirius again, though, and he's like, you've still been helping Sirius this whole time. And then Lupin is now going to like take over the explanation. So I told you, wands going back and forth. Now Lupin is going to return the trio's wands to them. And he says like, we're unarmed. You are. I'm just going to explain, like, hear me out here. Lupin starts his explanation by saying what you said earlier about how he knew they were there because the Marauders map he was looking at that night. then he explains that he made the map along with his three other friends and, goes over the marauder identities, the like Wormtail as Pettigrew, Padfoot, etc. He says that even when you're under the cloak, you're visible on the map, which is an important detail that we need to remember for later. That comes up a couple of times, I think, later, where even people under invisibility cloaks are invisible on the map. And the chapter ends with him asking to see the rat, which is an animagus Peter Pettigrew. So this is the big reveal now that Peter Pettigrew is animagus and alias Scabbers.
Ron is like, no, he's not. Of course he's a rat. And Lupin goes, no, he's not. He's a wizard. And I feel like I hear in the back of my head the Hagrid voice, you're a wizard, Scabbers.
Yes. Yes. It's so dramatic. I also think of there's this like TikTok Instagram creator named Kiera Lewis, and she is an adult who read the Harry Potter books for the first time. And she had a very visceral reaction to like Scabbers' Pettigrew reveal. And like you can look her up and look up her reaction. It's so funny, but she's like, he's a rat. He's a rat in every like version of the word. And it's so true.
Yeah, I love the entendre there, the pun. But we get
Yes.
right in a row. We find out Lupin's a werewolf. We find out Lupin made the Marauders map with his friends. And we find out that the rat, Ron's pet that we've known for 3 books, is an animagus and is Peter Pettigrew, who is someone we thought was dead. So it's hard, like rereading this. All this stuff is just the basic core Harry Potter knowledge, that you take for granted. So it's hard to even like get the impact of these reveals reading it again. It's one of those things I wish I could go back and read this for the first time because it's just so crazy the amount of the information that's being dropped in these giant plot twists, and they're all coming like one after another, like waves hitting.
Yes, if you're like a big fan of like the plot twist or the murder mysteries or the thrillers where you like find out something in the end and like there's twists and turns, the third book is going to be your favorite Harry Potter book. There's so many twists.
Yeah, and it keeps going, but this is 3 chapters. So that's just the first part. So now we're getting into chapter 18.
Yes, so this is chapter 18, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. And it starts with Sirius lunging for Pettigrew. Sirius is like, all right, I'm done waiting. But Lupin stops him. And Lupin makes a good point, and I feel like this is where Lupin's kind of like the teacher and the mentor in him. And he's saying, like, they have a right to know. Ron kept him as a pet. There's parts that he doesn't even understand. And Harry, like, of all people, Harry deserves the truth of his parents' deaths and, like, all that had happened. So Lupin feels like they can't just outright kill him. They owe these children an explanation for all the stuff that has happened. Hermione's like, he just can't be an animagus. He just can't. And so Lupin's like, ever patient Lupin is like, why can't he be? Like, let's talk about it. Like a teacher would be like, all right, explain your logic. And Hermione is saying, like he would be on the register because the ministry has the register, and she went and looked at the register. And I just love this. Like Harry in his head, he's like marveling at the lengths that Hermione goes to complete her homework. Like she's going to the animagi register for the ministry and like looking up who's animagi on the list for this past century. There's McGonagall's name. How cool.
Yeah. And Lupin's like, okay, well, maybe somebody was illegally an animagus.
Yeah, Hermione's still learning about illegal activities. She's all the way there by like book 7, but here she's like, people can break the law? This is where Lupin tells the backstory of the Marauders becoming animagi to help him with his transformations, and them going to the Whomping Willow, and then making the map, and then Snape finding out about him being a werewolf, like Sirius pulling that prank on him.
Yeah, he really like paints a whole picture of like what his school days were like and how his friends helped him with his werewolfism. They explain that, this is off the books. The government doesn't know. Not even Dumbledore knows that they are animagus, like through to this day, which I kind of find a little unbelievable. I feel like when they were students, there would have been something that came up where Dumbledore would have found out, or Dumbledore would have had an idea that something was going on. And then as adults, they're in the Order of the Phoenix. Wouldn't they bring this information forward? Like Sirius can transform into a dog. That's a powerful weapon they could use to spy. or to access places that they can't. So I feel like it would have benefited them to tell Dumbledore, like, hey, by the way, we can turn into animals. Like, how can we use this to fight the Dark Lord?
Yeah. The explanation that's given is Lupin's like kind of self-loathing and that he didn't want to admit that this person that gave him a chance, he kind of like took advantage of and, led other students down this path. I don't, I guess we could believe that he convinced the others also to keep the secret just like because he didn't want to be revealed to Dumbledore. But yeah, it is a little bit like this kind of could have been used by the Order of the Phoenix, but I don't know because it seems like back in the day they were all just getting killed and they were kind of defenseless anyway.
Yeah. They go into this a little bit, Lupin's guilt about not telling Dumbledore, even now not telling Dumbledore. But Dumbledore just seems to be kind of all-knowing or just has a knack for like getting information and finding things out.
Yeah, but I will say we do know that like there's some things that Dumbledore does not know. Like another great example is the room of requirement. You would think that Dumbledore, after being headmaster for years and years and years and a teacher before that, he would have at some point figured out the room of requirement. Oh, he also never found the Chamber of Secrets. Like there's things that he misses. And, he pays a lot of attention to Harry. Does he pay a lot of attention to every other student that has come across his path? It seems like maybe not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I'm thinking of like the relationship he has with Harry, which is very close and like he's his personal mentor almost. But it makes sense that he's not doing that for all the students or keeping tabs on all the students. He's probably just making sure the nurse, Madame Pomfrey, has taken Lupin to the tree once a month. And that's kind of the extent of his involvement in that. Or maybe checking in with Lupin here and there, like, hey, everything going okay with your transformations? And Lupin's like, yeah, it's great. It's totally under control. No one knows.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And while Lupin's explaining this, the door of this bedroom in the Shrieking Shack just kind of opens and they all just kind of ignore it. Which we talked about this in a previous episode, the Hogsmeade, first Hogsmeade visit, where like if a door ever opens and you're in the wizarding world, like you should be questioning it. Like that magic exists, that people can have invisibility cloaks. Like don't let that stuff go.
Yeah, this is so annoying. The door squeaks and they're just like, that's weird. It's the Shrieking Shack.
Yeah, and this kind of goes into the explanation. Like it gets written off, or like Ron goes, this place is haunted. And then Lupin explains it's not. It never was haunted. It was always me turning into a werewolf. Dumbledore just encouraged this rumor that there were like spirits in the Shrieking Shack. And so no one would approach it. But of course, the door opening comes back because Snape appears from under Harry's invisibility cloak that he found at the base of the Whomping Willow. And this is important because like Snape appears before he's getting key points of information that would have turned the story and his reaction after the fact. But okay, so that's the end of this chapter 18. So now we're on chapter 19, the Servant of Lord Voldemort. So Snape explains that he had gone to Lupin's office to give him the Wolfsbane potion, and he found the Marauder's map just sitting there open for anyone to see, like, Lupin, come on. And so he did the same thing that Lupin did and followed the map to where they are. This is Snape's moment where he thinks that he's exacting revenge on Sirius. He's going to get Sirius and Lupin in trouble, or we'll get into that. But for Lupin, supposedly for helping Sirius. And then Lupin's response is, "You fool, is a schoolboy grudge worth putting an innocent man back inside Azkaban." Snape, it's like you don't even realize because I feel like the first time reading this, you're just like, Snape, he's just the bad guy. Like, whatever. Like, he's just hates these guys because this schoolboy grudge. But when you know the whole story, like as a reread, it makes total sense that Snape is like deranged. He thinks that Sirius is the reason that Lily died.
Yeah, this is very important to Snape. And yeah, he doesn't just want like the glory of catching Sirius. Like this is a personal vendetta that he has against him because Sirius is responsible for the death of the love of his life in his mind.
Yeah. And I think even later, even after he learns the truth, from Dumbledore and from things and working with him in the Order, I still think that he blames Sirius because Sirius still convinced them to change the secret keeper. As much as Snape hates Sirius, I believe that Snape knows that Sirius would have died before revealing their location. I think it's like Snape, I feel like Snape wishes that Sirius had just stayed secret keeper, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. And Snape, as a bad guy or as a villain, like throughout the first 3 books, he's like always has this cool way of talking, or he's very like snarky and low key kind of. And in this scene, it's all caps. He's just yelling. He is like very emotional, you can tell. And it's not the Snape that we're used to seeing.
And on a reread, it makes so much sense. The first time you're reading it, you're just like, man, he does not like this kid from school. So Snape binds Lupin and then moves toward Sirius and points his wand at him and says, give me a reason to do it, and I swear I will. Which, again, like, I think this is like the subtle stuff that you don't really realize until you're rereading. But it's like Snape wants to kill Sirius, but he's supposed to, like, he's on the side of good, so he's not just gonna like kill Sirius willy-nilly. So he's like, but if he like makes a move on me and I have the excuse of self-defense, like, I'll do it.
Yeah. And Snape's having to battle from all sides. The kids don't trust him, or are kind of like bickering with him. Lupin's trying to reason with him, and it gets bound up. Sirius, just anything he says is going to be like kind of snarky towards Snape, and they are going. So Snape's just like in a room full of enemies from all sides.
Yeah, and they're bickering. And Hermione, like, is the most logical and rational person, and she's like, let's just hear them out. And then Snape says, like, basically threatens her, like, saying, you're going to get expelled, like, you're here with a murderer and a werewolf, like, out of bounds. And she tries again, and she's like, well, it can't hurt, kind of like, she's again trying to like reason with him. And he says to her, which Snape's talking to students crazy. Keep quiet, you stupid girl. Don't talk about what you don't understand. And then a few sparks like come out of his wand, and Hermione at this point stays silent. And I'm like, Snape, there, whatever, good guy or not, there needs to be some punishment for the way that he talks to Hermione.
Well, he thinks this is a life or death situation, that Sirius is dangerous, right? And potentially trying to kill Harry.
I feel like you are a Snape and Dumbledore apologist, and I'm like, these guys need to go down.
I don't know, if some 13-year-old was being sassy with me, I'd be like, shut up and stand in the corner. I'm here to take care of business.
Like, think about the difference, Lupin versus Snape. Lupin's like, let's talk about it. Let's, like, why can't Pettigrew be a rat? Whereas Sirius is just like, just shut up and stay quiet. Like, the treatment of children. And this comes up later in this book, too, when, like, Hermione and Harry are trying to tell this story and then the Ministry won't listen. Or when Harry tries to tell the Ministry about Voldemort and they won't listen. Like, sometimes you have to listen to children.
Yeah. I understand why Snape has a hard time with Harry and just isn't going to get over his grudge against him. But throughout the books, he always gives Hermione a hard time, and it's really unfair.
Yeah, he really, like, goes after her. Like, I feel like her specifically, when
even more than Ron. Like, the Snape-Hermione dynamic is very aggressive.
Yeah, for the... Harry looks like a doppelganger of his school bully. Like, that kind of, makes, like, logical sense why he would have such a hard time with him. But, like, Hermione's just, like, this random person. He's just like, I hate you.
I think she's just, like, too try-hard for him.
Yeah. So Snape says vengeance is sweet, and he had hoped to be the one to catch Sirius. And Sirius just explains, he's like, I'll go to the castle. Like, Ron brings his rat. I'll go to the castle. I turn myself in. I'll explain the whole story. Like, they'll turn him into Pettigrew. It'll prove that I'm innocent. But this is where it gets, like, the real drama, because Snape's like, I'm not going to take you there. I'm just going to take you and Lupin, like, straight to the Dementors to get the Dementors' kiss. This is where, like, the students get involved now. So Harry moves in front of Snape and calls him pathetic for the grudge. And, Snape's yelling at him. And Snape actually has, like, kind of a great line. He says, Like father, like son, Potter. I have just saved your neck. You should be thanking me on bended knee. You would have been well served if he'd killed you. You would have died like your father, too arrogant to believe that you might be mistaken in black.
Yeah, intense.
Ron, Hermione, and Harry all simultaneously decide that they're going to go after Snape, and they all do Expelliarmus at the same time. And that's why he's like completely thrown and like knocked out, because he's being hit with 3 spells at once.
Mm-hmm.
Even Sirius is like, whoa, you guys should not have done that. Like, you should
not
have
attacked a teacher. Hermione feels at least a little guilty about it. She's like, we attacked a teacher. We weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah, Harry and Ron are like, we've been waiting to do this.
He had it coming.
Yeah, Sirius unties Lupin, and then we're back to business. So Lupin asks for Scabbers, and Ron is still defensive, and I feel like Ron is like so against this like rat being Pettigrew, and I guess it's just like the whole like denial, like if you're like loving to this pet and then you realize he's been secretly a man this whole time. It's like very disturbing. He doesn't want to accept that.
Yeah, but Ron's arguing that Scabbers has been with the Weasleys for 12 years, and if a pet rat lives maximum 4 years, or like 2 to 3 years is normal for a pet rat. So this rat is very, very old. Like, you would never come across that ever.
Yeah, there's a really good scene that's in the books that's not in the movies, where when they're at Diagon Alley, they go to a pet shop to get tonic for Scabbers. And the lady explains this. She's like, the rat shouldn't be living this long. And also the rat has like no powers or anything. And she's just kind of like weirded out. Like, this rat is kind of weird, and just gives him a little like tonic to try to help him feel better. But she even was like suggesting that he kind of look for other rats, because like she felt like the rat was basically like not long for this world. So it's such a good little bit of details that are kind of become important later, right?
With Pettigrew, if we can do a sidebar for a second, what was his plan? Like, he becomes a rat. He's just going to school with this kid. I mean, it's just coincidence that Ron and Harry became friends. He was with the Weasleys long before that friendship was even possible. Mm-hmm. So what was Pettigrew trying to do? Just live forever, 40 years as a rat with this one family?
Yeah, he's staying in hiding, but staying with a wizard family so he can kind of, keep an ear to the pulse of what's going on in the wizarding world. And if Voldemort was to rise to power again, this family would get the paper, and the dad's part of the ministry, and the kids are going to Hogwarts. He's kind of like
in the loop.
Yeah, getting in the loop, right?
I don't know. 5 years as a rat, and I'd be switching strategies. I wouldn't catch me going on 12 years just waiting this out.
Oh, yeah. Pettigrew's like crazy. But like, Pettigrew's a coward. I think that's really like his base personality. He's not really making like grand plans over here. He's just like, who can I like hide with where I'll just be safe kind of thing. Like, if that's Voldemort, if that's Dumbledore, if that's this random wizard family, I feel like he's just kind of like floating around through life, right? Or he did that with the Marauders, like just latched onto them. He's always just kind of like latching on.
He would have been a little bit familiar with the Weasleys through the Order of the Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
But you're getting passed around between a bunch of kids. Fred and George are probably trying all kinds of weird magic on you.
I know. It is kind of like random or fortuitous that Ron ends up befriending Harry, and this family becomes like Harry's adoptive family.
Yeah, what a lucky coincidence for Peter Pettigrew. Also, he's had a lot of exposure to Harry over the past 3 years. So you'd think part of Peter Pettigrew would start to become like a little sympathetic towards Harry, or feel guilty about what he did to him. He's overhearing these, intimate conversations between Ron and Harry and Hermione, and seeing Harry grow up from like an 11-year-old boy. It's pretty crazy that I feel like he kind of in a way has to face what he did to him.
Yeah, and doesn't seem to like have any sort of guilt about it. It's just like, I had to save my own neck. And it's just, yeah, I really don't like Peter Pettigrew. Like, I don't think he's a good person.
Yeah, he's really deeply evil. And we're basically learning that Peter Pettigrew was the one who betrayed the Potters, and that confirmation that Sirius switched the Secret Keeper. Sirius thought that he himself would be a target for Voldemort to come after, and that no one would suspect that Peter Pettigrew was the Secret Keeper. So he had them switch it, and then that's when, like, that was the weak link, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to note that Peter had been spying for Voldemort for a year before all this went down. He had been passing information. Once Pettigrew became the Secret Keeper, he was like just trotted over to Voldemort to go tell him. Whereas Sirius's whole plan was like keep him in hiding, and then everyone will suspect me. If Voldemort even catches him, tortures him, whatever, he'll know that like it's not even a secret he can give, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He also explains about the transforming into a dog in Azkaban, and that like he kind of focused on the fact that he was innocent. That helped him keep, his sanity, and that he saw the paper. So Fudge brought in a newspaper to Azkaban that had the picture of the Weasleys that in their Egypt trip. Because the whole thing is that the Weasleys won this like 1,000-galleon prize that the Daily Prophet does, and there's a story on them that they went to Egypt and everything, and there's this picture of the whole family, including Scabbers, and that's how that's how Sirius realizes that Scabbers, aka Pettigrew, is at Hogwarts with Harry, ready to act, and he's like, his whole motivation for breaking out of Azkaban wasn't hatred of Peter. It was like, he's at Hogwarts and he could kill Harry. He could hurt Harry. He could turn him into Voldemort. I'm the only one that knows. Like, I have to go and do something personally about this.
Yeah. And Sirius recognizes Scabbers from the picture because he's been hanging out with this rat, his whole childhood or teenage years. He knows what Peter looks like very well, but also that Scabbers is missing a paw or a finger, and he can see in the picture like both the paws are up and that the finger is missing, and he puts that together because that was all that was found of Peter when he died. No one found his body. There was just a finger from like an explosion.
Yeah. And also in this explanation, he explains his alliance with Crookshanks, and this explains a lot of like the things that have been happening. So Crookshanks was trying to get Scabbers this whole time and bring him to Sirius, and then he was the one that stole the passwords for Sirius to try to go and get Scabbers himself. And then Peter as Scabbers like faked his own death again as a rat, and so Crookshanks is the one that's been kind of like reporting back and working with Sirius, and Sirius has been like, as a dog on the grounds. That's how he hasn't been seen. So, and that's why it also all explains like, why Harry thinks he's been stalked by the Grim, all that.
So it's kind of hard to keep up, but as we're going through this part, is Harry buying all of this, or is he coming around, or he's still skeptical, but just willing to hear them out?
Still skeptical, waiting, like just hearing them out and listening to the story. We'll get to a moment in a little bit, but there's a moment that's like the actual moment where Harry comes around.
Okay. So Harry's still, on the fence, or more leaning that he doesn't trust them. But I mean, what is he going to do? He can't exactly overpower them. Or, maybe Ron and Hermione are all kind of like waiting for like, okay, well, maybe we'll find our moment again and we can do the Expelliarmus in sync.
Yeah. I mean, I think like they're telling you this crazy story. I mean, you're just like hearing them out. It's also like just a ton of information that you're just kind of like processing, obviously.
But he does believe or knows that these are his father's friends, so there's some like, I think he's at least a little curious.
And then Ron eventually comes around to handing over the rat. So this is when Lupin and Sirius, with Snape's wand, make Peter appear. So Peter appears, and I love, this is where Lupin goes into his casualness. Well, hello, Peter. Long time no see.
Yeah. And Peter's transformation, I like how they did this in the movie. The acting, like he has these weird rat-like tendencies, and he looks very weird and creepy and maybe rat-like. Like just everything about it was really creepy to watch this as a kid, and it felt convincing. Like, oh, this man was a rat for 12 years.
Yes. A side tangent about some of the things about the movie. I'm glad you bring this up. I noticed, I rewatching the movie scene, this whole scene, they have the door to the bedroom just like creaking open and shut on repeat. And
Mm.
it's like you get these sounds in the background of like the creaking and moving of like a house, kind of like moving in the wind. That's kind of persistent. And they have some like creepy music throughout. And it just really gives the like metaphorical darkness and creepiness of the scene gets added of like in the people are kind of moving around and then the house is creaking and we have these creepy music and it like everything seems very eerie.
It sounds like you're trapped in a haunted house with a murderer.
Yes, the actor that's Timothy Spall that plays Peter Pettigrew in the movies. I mean, he does such a good job and I've seen him in so many different movies playing like so many different roles and I feel like he always nails it. I thought it would be kind of cool to shout out also because recently they came out with the full cast audiobooks of Harry Potter, or at least the first and the second one are out now, and then they're slowly
I
releasing
didn't know
more.
that.
Yeah, so the new ones are these I've heard called like theatrical audiobooks. So it's definitely not your typical audiobook. And that meaning one, it's full cast. So there's different voices for all the different people that you hear in the dialogue. There's a main narrator that voices all the non-dialogue parts, and then you get the dialogue voiced by the individual actors, but also it's an audiobook that has a lot of like noise and music and background stuff kind of throughout the books. I'm not really a fan of that kind of audiobook. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so I don't really like the theatrical because I'm used to just regular audiobooks. Have you ever listened to one?
No, but I can imagine. This actually sounds pretty cool. I would try it.
Some people like it, I guess. I can't really get with it.
But I can see how for some scenes like this would benefit from a little bit of background noise, music or something.
I think it's like cool when the having a different cast. So this scene, I think like is big. What we're about to get into is like big between Sirius, Lupin, and Pettigrew, and you're getting like these three characters interacting together. So I did look up the voices for those characters. So in the new full cast audiobook, the person that plays Sirius Black, his name is Shawpei Dirisu, if I'm saying that right. And he's a British actor known for Slow Horses, His House, Gangs of London, and Black Mirror. So you might have seen him. And what's funny is in Slow Horses, he's co-star of Gary Oldman, who plays Sirius Black in the movies. So Sirius Black and Sirius Black. Then Remus Lupin, who was played by David Thewlis in the movies, he's voiced by Ewan Ryan, is a Welsh actor known for Game of Thrones and Vicious, Those About to Die, and The Dirt. So you can listen for his voice as Remus. And then the last of these, like this trio that we're getting in this main scene is Peter Pettigrew, who we talked about, played by Timothy Spall in the movies. He's voiced by Blake Harrison, which is a British actor from The In-Betweeners, Heavyweight, and World on Fire. So maybe check those guys out. And then when the third audiobook, I think it comes out in January, so you can listen to them and see how you like that kind of audiobook.
Ewan Ryan, who plays Lupin, played Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones, which is a pretty memorable character. I think most people's like least favorite character in the entire show. So it's funny that he plays like such a good guy in Harry Potter.
Yeah. So where were we with the scene? So Peter's back and he immediately is kind of trying to like explain himself. He's still trying to like blame Sirius. He's like, I've been a rat this whole time because I was scared of Sirius. He, tried to murder me, like all this stuff. He's trying to like stick with his story. Hermione, I love Hermione. She's great. She starts asking some logical questions here that get the important answers. She's like, well, Peter's been in the same dorm as Harry all these years. Like, why didn't he attack before? Like, that's a fair question. And Sirius explains, he kind of Like, he basically explains that he's a coward. Pettigrew isn't going to just attack Harry at Hogwarts where Dumbledore is without any sort of like backup or any way out. Like, Dumbledore would just kill him. And like, that's what Pettigrew's trying to avoid.
Yeah, and Peter doesn't actually believe in the cause. You know, he's not like a freedom fighter for Voldemort. He's just doing whatever he needs to do to survive. So he's not going to stick his neck out or do anything risky, especially if Voldemort's out of the picture right now. There's no reward. You know, he doesn't have any motivation to harm Harry.
Yeah. Hermione also calls Sirius Mr. Black, which is great. And she asks, well, how did you get out of Azkaban? And this is where this is where Sirius kind of gets into the explanation of like him being a dog and how he could kind of like, he doesn't really know completely, but he's like, something about the obsession about getting Pettigrew helped me kind of like stick to that and keep my mind focused on that. And I kind of got some power back and was able to slip out and then, you know, swam as a dog and went to the grounds as a dog. What's really cute, this is the moment you were asking before. This is the moment when Harry turns. This is Black's quote. He says, I journeyed north and slipped into the Hogwarts grounds as a dog. I've been living in the forest ever since, except when I came to watch the Quidditch, of course. You fly as well as your father did, Harry. And he looked at Harry, who did not look away. So this is like a key moment here.
If you want to manipulate Harry, compliment his Quidditch game and you'll have him wrapped around your finger.
Wrapped around your finger, yeah. And compare him to his dad, yeah. Believe me, Harry, I never betrayed James and Lily. I would have died before I betrayed them. And then it says, at long last, Harry believed him. His throat too tight to speak, he nodded. So this is like, Harry has now turned. He sees that Pettigrew's alive. He's heard all of their explanation. He believes them.
Yeah, and it's really this final, just authentic from the heart thing from Sirius of like, I didn't do it.
Yeah. Peter starts begging for his life. He's like begging anyone.
Yeah, I love that Peter just makes the rounds. He goes first for Sirius, then to Lupin, then Ron, then Hermione, then Harry. Just every single person. He's like, please, please save me. And they're like, no. And then he goes to the next person, just jumping ship, changing strategy really quickly.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you could say he's adaptable, but he's not making a convincing argument.
Yeah, like his argument to Ron is, I was a good rat, I was a good pet. And then they're like, you made a better rat than a human? Like, that's your reasoning?
Yeah, I love that quote from Sirius.
And then when he goes to Harry, obviously this enrages Lupin and Black. They're like, don't talk to Harry. Lupin and Black agree that they're going to kill him together. Finally, they're about to kill him. They're like, just admit it. Just admit what you did. And this is where Peter Pettigrew finally confesses to everything that he did. He says that, like, he says that he was saving his own hide. It's like, it's terrible. He has no excuse.
Yeah, he's like, well, what was I supposed to do? He was going to kill me.
Yes. And this is my favorite quote, I would say, from the scene. And like, I just love Sirius. So, but the line from Pettigrew is he was taking over everywhere, talking about Voldemort. What was there to be gained by refusing him? And then Sirius says, what was there to be gained by fighting the most evil wizard who has ever existed? Only innocent lives, Peter. And then Pettigrew says, you don't understand. He would have killed me, Sirius. And then all caps, Sirius says, then you should have died. Died rather than betray your friends as we would have done for you. So good.
Yes, and that is so memorable from the movie. You can just picture that dialogue, that exact line being delivered. Great quote from this book. And you can tell Harry, Harry probably feels this way already because, from book one, Harry's ready to like sacrifice himself for Ron and Hermione. But, maybe Harry is a bit influenced by this or kind of takes this to heart because obviously he carries this conviction forward that like he would do anything for his friends.
Yeah. And earlier when they first got into the Shrieking Shack, when it's just Sirius and the trio, it's different in the movie. But in the books, Ron and Hermione say to Sirius, if you want to kill Harry, you're going to have to kill us both. Like they were like, we're all going to, if you're going to kill Harry, we're all going to die here together.
Everyone's all too eager to die.
Yeah.
Everyone except Peter Pettigrew.
Oh my gosh. So before they can kill Peter, though, Harry steps in front of them steps in front of Peter. And again, this is like the what I mentioned before, like the physical body moving in front of a body. Harry steps in front of Peter and stops him from killing him and says, he doesn't want them to become murderers just because of Peter. They'll send him to jail. And like he's not sticking up for Peter. He's just saying, just don't kill him. Let him go to jail. This seems like a little moment in the moment, but this is going to come back later. This is actually going to be like very important that Harry does
This is such a tragedy. Like, it would have been so much better knowing everything that comes. He should have just let them kill him. Because no one knows that he's alive. Like, they could have got away with it.
Yeah, but it doesn't clear Sirius's name, though.
Yeah,
Sirius
I just think
needs him.
the chances of clearing Sirius's name are probably kind of far-fetched to begin with. Or, I mean, it's going to take a lot of work to get there. I guess that is the only hope of, like, if Peter's alive and he can admit to what he did, then it clears Sirius. But winning over the public and, I don't know, it just seems like it's a bit of a stretch to begin with. And I don't know, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, this goes into like, this gets kind of dark for this children's book, and they get into this in the later books. But Dumbledore says before, like, killing people kind of takes away your soul. Like, so I think, and Harry, even till the final book, he's never like out to kill people. And he's really trying to prevent like needless murders, right?
Yeah. It just, if you have like a utilitarian view of it, it just makes more sense to get him out of the picture.
Okay. So for the record for this podcast, Jessie wants to apologize for Dumbledore and Snape and thinks that they should just kill Pettigrew. These are some really strong opinions.
Who cares about Sirius's soul?
So they agree. They say, okay, well, Harry, of all people, like, you can decide this. So we'll go with what you want, but we're gonna like keep a close eye on Peter. So they put Ron's leg also has been broken this entire time. I don't know if we really went into that, but he's been like struggling. So they put his leg in a splint and then have Snape like levitated, magically carried.
Yeah, in case you forgot, Snape's been in the room the whole time, unconscious.
Yeah, Snape's been unconscious in the corner. And then Lupin and Ron get strapped to Pettigrew. It feels like there could have been a better way maybe to do this, but whatever. And then this group, ragtag group, is all going to now leave, go back through the passages of the Whomping Willow, going back to the castle to, clear Sirius's name.
But as Snape dropped earlier in this scene, Lupin didn't take his potion tonight.
Yes, that's going to be really important. Also, Snape didn't get key details of Pettigrew being alive and being a rat before he got knocked out. So that's another key thing. But yeah, so we're going to end that there for this scene. Did you have a favorite quote or moment from the scene?
Yeah, I forgot to give it to you in the moment, but my favorite quote is when Sirius says, "I want to commit the murder I was imprisoned for."
Yeah. He's like, I've already served the time, might as well do the crime.
Yeah, because when the kids come in, he's just so set on killing Peter. He's like, I'll explain to them after. I just want to kill him right now.
Yeah.
And it's such a, like, I don't know, devious thing to say.
Who was your hero of the scene?
Hero of the scene, I'd say Lupin. Because Lupin is my hero of the scene because he actually gives us some explanation. Peter doesn't have his story straight. He's just kind of rambling nonsense and changing strategy every other sentence. Sirius is just dropping these mysterious, murderous one-liners that make him seem more like a bad guy. So without Lupin, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
True. I have Sirius as my hero of the scene. I would say he's the hero and the villain. He starts out as the villain. He's been the villain of this whole book. And then he turns to be this big hero. And then from there, he kind of acts as a main hero of the books. And I just love Sirius. I'll stay like a Sirius apologist till I die. He has some of the best quotes, and some of the best quotes from this particular scene, things that he said, that just show his true character. He's such a Gryffindor. He's such a loyal friend, willing to die for you. Even the line before about innocent lives, he's willing to die not just for James, who he loves, but for other innocent people. He feels like fighting Voldemort is the right thing to do. this is the moral thing to fight against evil. Like, you always fight against evil. He just can't even like fathom how Pettigrew operates.
Yeah. It's crazy how dark and scary Sirius seems at the beginning of the scene or throughout this book. You know, when we come to know him as like the lovable uncle that Harry has this close relationship with in the next two books.
Who was your villain?
My villain is probably Peter because he's so unprepared. I mean, he's had 12 years to come up with a story. I know he didn't think he was going to be put on the spot right in this moment, but he really doesn't do anything to help himself. Like, he doesn't have a convincing argument or a good alibi or anything.
Yeah, I mean, he knew that Sirius was out for like almost a year now.
Yeah.
So it's like you had some time to try to like work out what, like, you know that he's going to come after you. It kind of, I don't know. It does feel like he didn't prepare at all when he had advance notice.
Yes. Yeah, he didn't do his homework.
So I want to talk about illustrations from the actual like main books. Do have some illustrations for the chapters. So the first one we get is the Whomping Willow with like little feet and a little like cat's tail, I think, like going into the kind of behind the tree. So it's a little like subtle reference, but you don't know what it is when you're first reading. And then we do get a dog depiction of Sirius, which is nice. And the dog depiction does look kind of similar to like the dog that they have for the third movie, I feel.
Yeah, it looks kind of wolf-like.
Yeah, I really like the dog that they use for Sirius in the third movie. I don't like the dog that they use in the later movies. That's very skinny and has like wispy hair. I just don't think that's like how Sirius is described.
Yeah, I don't know what the name of this dog breed is, but have you seen, like, it looks like a German Shepherd, but it's all black. I feel like that kind of dog is what I picture.
Yeah, like a dog with like the pointy ears that are like that stay up kind of. And very fluffy, very big black dog. I think the skinnier dogs with the straggly hair and like the ears that are down, maybe that's closer to the actual depiction of like a Grimm from the, folklore. But I just like the other version better of like a bigger, big wolf-like German Shepherdy kind of black dog.
Yeah, that looks like it could do damage to you or looks like, threatening to a kid.
Yeah, it looks more threatening than like haunting. And then the last chapter cover we get is the Shrieking Shack, kind of with the boarded up windows and like fence around it and everything. So those are our three chapters, which are the Cat, Rat, and Dog, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, and the Servant of Lord Voldemort. And then in the illustrated book, the most creepy picture they have is like the Sirius Black reveal, and he looks scary. He's got like hair in his face, his eyes are down, he's got like dark under eye circles, and they have him looking like Gary Oldman. I feel like didn't look that scary compared to like a more creepier, like vampiric kind of version of Sirius.
This illustration of Sirius Black looks like Rasputin, like the evil guy that was with the Romanov family, the Russian guy.
Grigory Rasputin, a Russian mystic.
So he's in the cartoon movie Anastasia, but this is actually a historical figure. And that's the kind of energy that's coming from this illustration of Sirius Black.
Yeah, from the illustrated books. That's Jim Kay. And then I did find another illustration. I think this is from the puzzles that has the trio with Crookshanks and Sirius Black. And Sirius is almost depicted like, he looks very much like Snape, almost. Like he's in all dark robes and like long black hair.
I thought that was a picture of Snape.
It can't be Snape though, because like Lupin and Sirius aren't there.
Yeah, and the shadow it looks like a wolf or like a dog with the ears. The way the person is drawn, the shadow looks like it's a dog.
Yeah, it's a nice little like subtle reference. You have like Sirius standing, and then like up on the ceiling and wall behind him, the shadow is in kind of the shape of a dog. And this is the moment where he's disarming the trio, and then Crookshanks is there, and this is like his big reveal behind the door from the shadows. It's such a good little scene. I love the like puzzle illustrations that they have. I think those are like the best Harry Potter ones.
Yeah, those are good. A detail I noticed in the book, Sirius's hair is down to his elbows.
Yeah, he's supposed to have really long hair. And nothing against the way Gary Oldman played Sirius, but he does not match the description of Sirius at all.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about the Gary Oldman casting for Sirius. I know people love him, but first of all, he's too old, which we've talked about before. Alan Rickman, they wanted to cast him, so they had to age up everyone else. But he plays him like a crazy person and just like totally deranged. And I feel like Sirius, it's not this like wild, manic, crazy energy. It's more of a focused, like I'm gonna kill Peter at all costs, and then I'll explain everything. It's like a darker, more focused energy.
Yeah. And he's described as having this really long hair, not just like shoulder length hair. And his hair is supposed to be like matted and black. And he's described as looking like a vampire. Like he's supposed to look like a vampire. I know Gary Oldman, which is funny because Gary Oldman I know has played vampires before, but he doesn't. That's not like the vampire look. Like the vampire look is like Damon Salvatore or like you're think about your like cliche Dracula. Like they have black hair, pale skin, maybe like a haunted like look about them. Maybe they have like high cheekbones. Like there's a look that's like your classic vampire. I feel like maybe with the show they'll do that more, but
Yeah, we'll see. But this is a great scene. Like I said, I wish I could read it again the first time because there's so many huge twists that just shape what we know of as like the main Harry Potter information that you remember for the next couple of books or becomes key plot points and vital information in the next couple of books. So it's so weird mentally to go back to before you knew all of this stuff and try to come at it from like the innocent mind point, an innocent or naive standpoint that Harry, Ron, and Hermione have.
yeah. Should we get into some theories kind of around the characters in this scene?
Yeah.
I think this is a good place to talk about it because we're getting a lot of like the Lupin and Sirius in this scene. So there's like some theories about them specifically. So one theory that's a pretty prevalent one is that Remus and Sirius had some sort of romantic relationship, that their relationship was more than friendship. And their like fanship name is Wolf Star because Remus Wolf, Sirius is a star, right? So Wolf Star. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't really buy it. I think of both of them as being straight, but if people want to believe in love, I'll let them. I see more Sirius and James being a couple than Sirius and Lupin.
Yeah, that would be one thing that I would point to is that James and Sirius seem to have a much more closer bond than Lupin and Sirius. It's important to note they both thought each other was the spy. Like Sirius had told Peter Pettigrew to, had told James and Lily to make Peter Pettigrew the secret keeper because he believed that Lupin was the spy. And then obviously Lupin believes the common story that like Sirius was the spy. So I feel like if they were in a romantic relationship, they wouldn't suspect each other of that.
Yes, that's my other main argument against this, is that they're both too skeptical of each other.
Yeah.
Maybe like scorned lovers are skeptical of each other. They like broke up before, and so then they're like, oh, I don't trust him anymore.
Yeah, I do ship Remus and Tonks together and like that relationship. So it's hard for me to ship him with Sirius.
I don't see it.
But yeah, but I mean, maybe. We never get a definitive explanation that they're not or that they didn't. And they spent a lot of time together later at Grimmauld Place. So who's to say that nothing happened? But a thing that I think promotes this a little bit is in the movie, Snape says, look at you two quarreling like an old married couple. That's not in the books, but that's in the movie. And I think this shipping of them came more from the movies, I feel, than the books. The next theory or like comment is that some people believe that Sirius and Remus are like the balance to each other. What do you think about that?
Yin and yang. Yeah, I think that's very clear. Like I said, Lupin is the hero of the scene because he's actually able to explain to the kids and win them over on this story. And I don't think that Sirius would have been able to accomplish that on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And I like them both as characters. They both have different strengths. Where Sirius has this bravery and maybe stubbornness or a drive to accomplish a goal, whereas Lupin's a little more reasonable or practical and likes to think things through and take his time. So I think that they're both strong characters and they definitely have different skill sets.
Yeah. I think they're kind of interesting. They're almost like opposites in some ways, I think, because Sirius, I think, outwardly is seen as like this villain and this dark bad guy and evil, and he comes from a family of, many Death Eaters and pure blood supporters. And yet he's this like sweet, nice guy, loving guy that's loyal. And not saying that Lupin's not, but Lupin outwardly might seem a little bit more like put together, like gentleman, but then he has the secret of being like this vicious werewolf. But I guess like people know in the wizarding world that Lupin's a werewolf because he like can't get a job and everything.
Yeah, but they both have this thing where if somebody just knew a couple facts about them, they would judge them or put them in a box. And the reality of the characters is different than that.
They're much
But
more complex.
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely see how these two were friends. Yeah, probably had a fun time in school or fun dynamic, how they kind of like bounce off of each other.
Another theory that I found that I don't normally really get on board with a lot of fan theories, but I think this is a good one. So it's kind of like related with this scene is it's about the Marauders map. And I think this scene is a good time to bring it up because like Lupin says that the map never lies, and Lupin was looking at the map and saw Pettigrew. And so I figured I'll just bring it up here. So there's a theory that the map only shows the Marauders in their animagus form to each other. So they could only see each other in their animagus form on the map. So if you're Sirius Black and you're looking at the map and James Potter is in his stag form, he would be able to see him. But let's say Albus Dumbledore, if he was open the map, he would not see, at that point where James Potter is, he would not see anything. Are you following?
Because, yeah, and I guess this probably came about because there's a bit of a gap with Harry not seeing Peter Pettigrew this whole time he has the map. So Harry, I think it's just
Sirius
explained.
Black.
Yeah, but Peter would be literally in the same room as him often. Mm-hmm. And I think it's explained away of Harry just never noticed Peter's name, assuming, oh, Harry's using the map when he's wandering the school grounds and he's not looking that closely. Obviously, there's hundreds of names on the map at any time because there's a bunch of people in the school. But you would think there would be times where Harry's looking at the map and seeing that Ron is right next to a person named Peter Pettigrew.
That you might like glance by, or more, not even so much Harry since he didn't have it for that long, but like the twins had it for a while, like for years 1 through part of 3 where Ron's at school, and plus the years before when Percy had Pettigrew where the twins were at school, like they would have seen the rat as Peter Pettigrew with both of their brothers each time.
Yeah, and then I guess I would need to look back at like how many times does Sirius get onto the school grounds? Are those moments when Harry is actively using the map? What's the overlap there of like, did Harry miss seeing Sirius, or was it just Sirius wasn't in proximity at the same moment that Harry was looking at the map?
Yeah. So I can believe this theory because it would explain a lot. Like either these people are just missing it because they're just, when you're looking for certain information, you're tuning out all the other information, right? So that, I think that's not like that crazy of a stretch to think that like the people that are looking at the map, being the twins, being Harry, are not, are missing things. And also it's important because I like in the movies, they have Harry see Pettigrew on the map. And I feel like people are going to bring that up. Like, but Harry did see Pettigrew on the map one time. That is not in the books though. The only person that sees Pettigrew on the map is Lupin, who knows about Pettigrew being a rat, right? Then Snape comes along, looks at that same map, and sees Lupin in them in the Shrieking Shack, and Snape doesn't notice Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything about that. He just sees Sirius.
Yeah, because we didn't after this scene, Fudge and Snape write off the trio's actions as them being bewitched. And Snape gives like testimony to Fudge that he didn't see Peter Pettigrew and Peter Pettigrew wasn't there. And Snape's like adamant that it's Sirius and all that. Like Snape has no reason to cover for Pettigrew. Snape honestly believes that Pettigrew is dead and Sirius is responsible until like later after like when the Order of Phoenix gets reformed.
Okay, I can get on board with this theory. And it makes sense that them, as they're making the map, are saying, okay, we're animagus. If someone else gets a hold of this and gets past the password, we don't want them to find out that information, or we want to be able to like really be in disguise when we're in that form. So we're going to put a spell to omit this information when we're in our animal form.
Yeah. So I think there's some grounds there. It does bring up the question, why wouldn't they do the invisibility cloak as well? We know that more people can have invisibility cloaks than are animagi. Animagi are super rare, right? Like they know that James has a cloak, but feasibly there could be other people that have cloaks they may want to see on the map, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just thought I'd bring that up. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I like that theory. That's interesting. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening. Next week, we will be discussing Winky the house elf. Until then, happy reading, happy listening, and may you never be chased by a convicted mass murderer.